and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today we are going to be going through my shelf destruct books for 2023. So I did this challenge in 2022. I did it quite late on though. I did it about halfway through the year and I picked 6 books for myself to read, or I had to unhaul them by the end of the year. You'll have seen my video on that now, so I will link it if you want to go and check that out, see the books that I picked and know their final outcomes. But I really enjoyed doing it, so I decided it was something that I wanted to continue over into 2023. Because, in case you haven't noticed, me and Simon have quite a lot of books and my TBR is ever growing, because even though I have so many books on my shelves that I want to read, I still buy myself books, people still give me books, there are still new release books that I want to read. So my TBR is growing, and sometimes I've had a book for that long, it just gets a wee bit lost on the shelf, and so I felt like this was a really good way for me to go through my catalogue, pick some books that I've had for a while and just give them the chance that they deserve to maybe be new favourites, or something that I DNF and decide isn't for me, but I can then unhaul it and it can go to somebody else who's going to enjoy it. So I felt like this was a really worthwhile project. But I am a mid-reader. I didn't do TBRs on the channel. I just, as soon as I have set myself the challenge that I need to read that book, I automatically don't want to read it. So like, set TBRs just aren't for me. I have I seriously need to finish that challenge, which I will run for the entire year, but I have so many books on that like I can essentially mid-read for them depending on what type of series I fancy, which is great. And I've done the same with this. I've sort of picked some different genres. I feel like last time the genre I picked most of was like some of the historical fiction that I just wasn't reaching for on my shelf, and this time I've tried to pick for a few different genres so that I'm going to be a wee bit more encouraged to pick up these books. But I have only chosen 6 again. I think that 6 works for me. It means that I only need to read one every other month. And for me, this isn't a book reducing my physical TBR. I have accepted I have a large physical TBR. I'm grand with it. It doesn't stress me, I promise. So for me, I really just want to give these books an opportunity. And so I think that doing one every other month and only doing the 6 is fine, and it'll allow me to fit them in throughout the year and see what I fancy. So the first book that I have picked is The Island Child by Molly Aitken. So this is a book that I received in a book box. It was a My Chronicle book box, I believe, for science fiction and fantasy a couple of years ago, and I have just never picked it up. So I believe it's set in a wee isle in Ireland, and it's told from our main character Una's perspective, but in 2 timelines. And so we have her as a child on this island, really struggling with rural life and I guess sort of the views on women and their societal expectations on this island, being wives and mothers, etc., and really just looking for a way to escape. And then we have adult Una, who is sort of struggling with how much that island has, you know, shaped her as a person and become part of her identity, and maybe looking for a way back to that island. It has a lot of Irish folklore in it, so I'm imagining there's going to be some sort of a fantastical element, although I don't really know what. But I'm hoping going into this that it's going to be a real character piece. I think that it will be, based on the description, and I'm hoping it's something that I'm going to really thoroughly enjoy. I'm actually excited for this one. The next one's a wee bit of a cheat, but I feel like I need some added pressure on myself to read it. So I have chosen Part of Your World by Liz Braswell. This is also part of my I seriously need to finish this challenge. It was a book that I was supposed to read last year and I just never gravitated towards it. I never ended up picking it up, and so I have put it on my challenge again this year. But also thought if I put it onto this, then maybe it'll make me feel a wee bit more encouraged to pick it up, because although I absolutely effing hate a TBR, see if I feel like I'm being productive and like I can check 2 boxes of 2 challenges with that one book, then I want to do it. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the year that I finally pick this up. This, in case you couldn't tell by the title, is a Little Mermaid retelling, and they're part of the Twisted Tales series that Liz Braswell writes, and so it's supposed to be like the Little Mermaid but from Ursula's perspective. And let's be honest, Ursula is like the main character in the Little Mermaid anyway. She's certainly my fave, so I'm really hoping that I'm going to go into it and I'm going to enjoy it. The only thing that's putting me off diving into it is because I read Once Upon a Time, which is like the Beauty and the Beast one, and I really didn't enjoy it and I was very disappointed, and so it has made me like severely apprehensive about picking any of the other books up in this series, but I've popped it on the list, so I need to read it. The next book that I have picked is Practical Demon Keeping by Christopher Moore. So I've had this on my shelf for a good number of years now. I want to hedge a guess and maybe say at least 3, maybe 4. I picked this up when me and Simon were at charity shop book shopping at one point, and it's like I guess a funny book, and I never really gravitate towards a funny book unless it is by like a comedian I really like specifically Scottish. Like I will read a lot of funny Scottish literature, but I never really pick up anything else. And so this is a wee bit different for me, but I thought I might still enjoy it because it has that fantasy element, there being demons in it, and there's like witches and stuff mentioned in the blurb. I think essentially it's this guy, and I didn't really know what's happened, like if he's made a bad deal gone wrong or whatever, but he's lumbered with this demon, and like he's basically just trying to get rid of him so that he can live his normal life, but he can't. And I feel like, you know, they're going to get up to all sort of hijinks, and they're going to be quite a mismatched pair, so it could be quite funny. And I've never read a Christopher Moore book before, but I actually just saw Becca, Fairy Becca, talking about him in one of her videos and says that she really enjoys his writing, and so that gives me hope because me and Becca have quite similar taste levels. So I am now excited to pick this one up, but still a wee bit dubious on whether or not I'm actually going to find it funny, because like I'm spoiled, man. I just think that like Scottish folk are the funniest cunts in the world, and like I grew up with all this Scottish humour around me that when I read things that are meant to be funny, like if it's no Scottish, I really find it funny. So next up is The Corset by Laura Purcell. So this is another one that I received via My Chronicle book box, and this is like a wee bit of a historical fantasy. So again, in keeping with the theme that I just never apparently pick them up. So there are 2 female main characters in this one. One is in jail accused of murder, and the other is the person who's come in to visit her. And I think we don't really know who the murderer is, whether it's actually the woman who is in jail or if it is the person who is coming to visit, if maybe they've done something shady in their past. But it's supposed to be like a wee bit, well, it describes it as a chiller, which I'm guessing is a bit like a creepy thriller. I've never heard that term, but I have read another Laura Purcell book before, and I didn't love it. I read The Silent Companions, which was supposed to be sort of like historical creepy horror, and it just wasn't really creepy at all. It was just a bit mediocre. And I have this on my shelf already, so this is going to be like last chance saloon for me and Laura Purcell to decide whether or not she's an author that I will continue to read from. So I thought I'll put it on the list, force myself to get around to it, and you know, make that call. The next book I've picked is The Woman Who Went to Bed for a Year by Sue Townsend. I have never read the Sue Townsend books, but Simon has all of the Diaries Adrian Mole ones, and he's read them and he really liked them, and so I thought that this would be a nice wee entryway into Sue Townsend's writing to decide whether or not I want to give that series a go. However, since I picked this book up, like Simon says to me at the time when I picked this up in the charity shop, and I thought, that sounds interesting. He says, oh, I read that, absolutely shite, didn't get it. And I was like, well, I mean, me have quite different tastes in books sometimes, so maybe it's alright, and I bought it. And I've never picked it up, and Ange from Angie's Book Chatter tried to read this, and I'm sure she DNF'd it because she also agreed it was shite. So you know, going into this I am not exactly hopeful I'm going to have a great time, but it is what it is, and we will see. The premise is basically a woman is having a hard time with her life, everything just gets on top of her a wee bit, and so she decides she's going to bed for a year. Like, I think that sounds like it could be interesting. I think that it'll be funny to see like what's driven her to this, and to be honest, like life getting on top of you and just deciding to go to bed for a year is immensely relatable to me, so we'll see. The last book I have chosen for this challenge is The Society of S by Susan Hubbard. This again was another charity shop find, and I didn't really know what drew me to this book, to be honest, because I am not actually sure it's something that I want to read. So I think it's YA, but it's like YA fantasy and like historical fiction, had a baby that also thought it was a bit of a mystery. And I'm not sure that that is something that I want to read. So it's on the list and we will see. It's set way back old times. I'll tell you just now, I can't actually see when it's set, but the main character is a 12-year-old, and so I'm not sure if this is going to either be too young for the type of subject matter that I'm expecting going into this, and then that'll gross me out, or like if it'll just not really make sense for the main character to be that age, which is then going to annoy me, because she is basically in this house and her dad's really strict on her, and her dad's like, listen, like you can't be doing this, you can't be doing that, you can't be leaving your room at this time, and obviously she does, because she's a 12-year-old lassie, so she's like, I know better than you, Dad, do what I want, and she cracks on. And I think that no is as it seems, so that's where the mystery element comes into it. I'm hoping going into this that like there's going to be good social commentary around how strict her dad is and like her rebelling against that, and I hope that that's going to be like a positive message. I hope it's not just going to be like she rebels against it, her life's in danger, her dad needs to save her, like, and then it's just like encouraging people not to speak out, because fuck that malarkey. I'm hoping that there's going to be like some sort of a supernatural element in this, and it not just being like just like a subject of the time. I hate when historical fiction hints that it's like supernatural and then it's no, they're just an opium, or like, you know, it's just her wee delicate constitution is making her think there's ghosts when there's no actual stuff like that, you know. I'm hoping that there's going to be some actual supernatural stuff happening in here, and I'm hoping it's going to be a good time. So they are the 6 books that I have picked. Fingers crossed I get to them, but I mean, who knows. I'm excited for some of them. I am no holding others up too much, and I don't have high hopes going into them, but it should be fun nonetheless to try something a wee bit different and to pick up some books that I have owned for a while. So hopefully I mention these and wrap up soon. If I don't, begin me a row. I say it all the time, but like, I need to be held to account. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!